you guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Deborah. So today we are on episode 7 of a series that we've started called Still Married, Young and Tied. And this episode, we have the fellas, the husbands here to give their take on their marriage. And so without further ado, we're gonna get straight into it. What is one thing that your wife had to have in order for you to marry her, like a quality or a skill? For instance, I know there are some men that say they won't marry a female who don't know how to cook, right? So for you guys, was there one thing that your wife had to have in order for you to marry her?
I noticed, like, growing up and dating, some of the women that I've dated or some of the women that my friends dated didn't respect boundaries in relationships. And that's something that me and my wife addressed during like the dating process. So we spoke about a lot of things, and boundaries was one of them. And one of the major boundaries that we have is if there's something that she needs to tell me, I give her the space to process it first before she comes to tell me. So if she says, hey, I have something important to tell you, but I'm not ready to speak to you yet, okay, cool. But I know there's something on her mind. But I give her the space and the time to process it first, think it through, and then she comes to me, and then vice versa. So we give each other that respect and boundaries.
She has to be nice. Though a lot of mean girls came out of nowhere, women who are just mean, nasty attitude, don't know how to speak to people, just saying whatever comes out their mouth. No, you have to be a nice individual, like a decent human being. Yeah. We could have a conversation, we could talk, we could crack jokes. Like, I'm not afraid of you being in public. I should not be afraid of me leaving yourself in public and hearing, oh, yo, wife did this, I don't have any of those fears. So for me, mainly, it has to be a pretty nice person, at least.
Cooking definitely is important, but I feel like that's usually what's more important, so I'm not gonna focus on that. But I would say quality-wise, just being family-oriented. I'm big on family. So for me, that was something that I just couldn't negotiate. It sounds kind of unfair because there are some women that didn't necessarily grow up in a family-oriented environment. So it does kind of sound unfair, but I know that's something I wouldn't be able to. Because just the environment I grew up with my parents, and I would have to be able to bring you home and see you getting along with, you know, my brother and my mom and my dad. Like, well, my mom, she gets along with everybody, so, but like everybody else, basically.
I think one of the things that I held valuable, you know, looking for, I guess, my woman was just the humility part. You know, I feel like being humble is like the number one thing for me personally, because you hear a lot of people say pride come before a fall, and that's really what it really is, you know. And if I'm with you, I want to see that you have some humility, you know what I mean? Because in humility you find respect, and I do believe that, you know, respect goes a long way. So humility is like one of the biggest things for me.
You definitely have to have a drive to be able to go get whatever you want. You know, whatever you want to do, go do it. Like, I never seen my wife to the point, like, she wanted a job, she would go for it. She wanted to accomplish this, she would go for it. So just that ambition, like, you just want to go get whatever you want, and you know you could accomplish it. I just needed that positivity in my life, personally, because I was always like, I was always hustling. No matter what it is, I have to go get it. So that was like a number one thing for me that I seen that she had. Just not giving up, getting whatever you need to get, accomplishing it, competing in school, whatever it was. I didn't care what it was. I just want to see that you had an ambition to do what you need to do and actually succeed, and you're not giving up on it. Guy, you really have to have an ambition. Don't be no lazy shorty. I don't like that.
That's real.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to bring the money. I'm not telling you for none of that. Just have to have a mindset of just have an ambition. Like, you really want to accomplish whatever you have, whatever goal that you have, set a goal and accomplish it. You know.
Can I add one thing that I also found important that my wife gave to me? A safe space to express myself. When I dated, a lot of women did not supply that. So when you would express yourselves, they would use that against you. A lot of I've seen it for myself, and it has happened to me as well. And my wife has never done that to me. So I appreciate her for that. She gave me the safe space to express my emotions.
That's definitely real, because as a man, you know, a lot of people, they believe, oh, because you're a man, you can't really express yourself, you know, not even in front of your girl or whatever. But man, stop it. You know, that's just your pride talking. You know what I mean? Like, men have feelings too. And I believe that if you express your feelings, you're good. Like, you get to release something that you weren't able to release before, you know, and even, you know, you being married now, you know, I'm married, I mean, we all married here, you know, being able to express that, you know, with your wife, I feel like, yo, that's good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, I'm not saying don't be a crybaby or whatever, you know what I mean?
Of
But,
course, yeah.
but I would say, listen, just feel free to express yourself because it just shows that you are being transparent to your wife.
Yes. So now that you guys are married, right? Because they usually say that you never really know somebody until you marry them. So now that you guys are married to your wife, do you feel like you married the same person that you were dating, courting?
The only thing you don't know is their living habits. The only thing you don't really know once you marry them. But for the most part, everything else that they display and they show in the household, it happened before. It just being that you live with them, it's a bit magnified.
Yeah.
That's all this. So for the most part, yeah, I'm married. I'm currently married to the same girl I courted. Just in a different manner, a different aspect. Except this time, I don't just go home. I actually have to lay next to her.
Yeah.
We actually have to talk out our issues, talk out our conflicts, whatever. But for the most part, but you will evolve, definitely. You will grow. You'll evolve. Parts of you will change. Things will change. But as far as the overall aspect, definitely.
The only thing that was truly hard, I would say, for me was I was so used to doing one thing. I'm gonna just give an example. Like in a Haitian house, I might have one sponge to clean my plates, cups. I don't care. As long as it's getting clean, out of nowhere, shorty came talk about there's one sponge for this, one sponge for this. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, let's clean it up. And so me doing that, I was.
You can't use face soap for body soap.
Yeah,
so body soap.
No, you cannot.
Yeah, there's face soap, there's body soap, there's hand soap, there's dish soap.
Yeah.
Yo, it's soap.
There's soaps out there.
Soap is soap. I didn't know the difference.
You know, so that's what made me. It was pretty hard to adapt sometimes, but the house is for you. You know, it don't matter as long as you just. I don't really know how to explain it. I just did the soap and I just do this. But if you have a specific one, then I don't know. It took time for me to adjust to that.
I married the person that I courted, that I expected. It's something that, you know, even before marrying her or even dating her, I prayed a prayer and I told the Lord, same way you blessed Abraham with, you know, Sarah, you know, I want a wife just like that. At the same time, one who knows her word and one who can tend to me and understand what marriage is. And God gave me just that. Now, in the beginning when I met her, you know, obviously there was some growing here and there because we just started dating, but there's been a massive growth from then on, you know, and being married to her now, like when we first moved in together, you know, after being married, like things were so natural. Now, obviously there was like, you know, things that we would have to get used to, you know, what these gentlemen said, but I would say overall, like things were just so natural, like, yo, we were meant to be, like, you know, and I always will thank God for that because, you know, I hear a lot of stories out there where people, you know, they get married and then things just go haywire.
Yeah.
Seeing that, you know, firsthand, I'm like, yo. And there's things I'm getting used to that I'm not even used to, like things I used to do by myself, you know, like washing dishes, you know, and et cetera, you know, ironing clothes and stuff like that. Before I even get to that, she's the one doing it. And I'm like, yo, babe, you wildin', what are you doing? But I'm trying to do it, but I'm trying to make sure that you're good. I'm like I can't really do nothing about it, nor can I say anything about it because, I mean, I'm like, yo, I guess that's what partners are for. And, you know, I'm like, yo, this is a blessing. So the same woman I dated, the same woman I married, she's the same, and thank God for that.
I feel like a lot of people that say the person I dated is not the person that I married, I feel like a lot of that is because there was like a lack of focus while they were courting in terms of focusing on, you know, marriage. Like usually certain conversations probably didn't happen. Usually sometimes, you know, maybe they didn't court long enough. You know, certain, you know, topics just weren't discussed. I feel like just listening to all the guys here, we pretty much agree. Like, even for me, the person I courted is the person I married. And I feel like that's because, along with what Ben said, you know, definitely praying about it, but also having those conversations beforehand.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Studying the person while you're dating them.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, it sounds bad, but you have to study the person that you're with. Like,
No, you do.
you have to.
I find that a lot of the time when men and women are courting or dating, it's the men who know the women more than the women
I
know the
agree with
men.
that 100%.
Yeah, because during the dating process, the man is more observant on little details, little things, because we're really trying to get to know you. So by the time you say, okay, by the time the women say, okay, let's date, we've already seen your habits, we've seen how you do certain things, this and that. So now you're trying to play catch up to us because you're just thinking, oh, let me see if he's serious. That's all y'all paying attention to. But we're paying attention to everything else because we're serious.
Ooh.
So now y'all gotta play catch up to us, to observe us and learn our habits. So now there's an imbalance because
That's good,
y'all
sir.
didn't take the step
That's a
during
fact.
that process to learn us
That's good, sir.
like we did to learn y'all.
That's a fact.
That's good.
Yeah.
How did you know that you was gonna marry your wife? Like, how did you know? Yeah, this is the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Fire came down, I wrote her name on snow.
Wait,
So here's the, for the most part, we kind of know when someone's gonna be a wife. We have an idea. We know. There's certain women you look at, observe them. No. Certain people you just look at them like, yeah. From first when I first met her, we became friends. I'm like, you know what? I think this.
It's gonna work.
Yeah, this. Mind you, at first she wasn't really interested at first. And after a while, I said, you know what? Okay, fine. Maybe we are just better off being friends. So now, for those who may not know, the key to always knowing if that person's the one is you must be in position to get that word from God.
Yes, sir.
The problem with a lot of guys when they're in confusion is because they're not in position. What I mean by that is you're not gonna know if she's the one if you're talking to three other four individuals.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I just had this
You're not
discussion
gonna
with
know.
somebody.
Yeah.
And what happened with me was I'm praying to God for I'm talking about over a year. I'm not getting anything. It came to a point where I legit made a vow to her and to God. I said, okay, until I get the word from God, whether it's you or not, I'm not gonna flirt, go on dates, talk to any female until I get a word about you. No kidding. Probably 2 months later, I got my answer.
But what was the potential that you saw? That led
Okay.
you to say,
First off, I've seen her break her back for people. Literally break her back for people who probably stab her in the back. How she always was, no matter how dirty somebody did her, she would still somehow find it in her heart to show love to that same individual. And that to me was very important because, like I said, she was the next generation of women who were beginning to lose their finesse. They're beginning to lose their elegance. They're beginning to lose the essence of what made them women. And she stood out amongst that group. So that was pretty much enough for me, honestly.
How I determined whether my wife was mine or not, was she's very selfless. She works hard. You know what I mean? Now, it took a while for me to really see that because I was so focused on trying to, God gave me the answer, so I'll just go and, save her money, try to marry her, just so I won't hear words from everybody else saying, oh, you should marry at a certain time, etc. My mistake was, this is, an open parenthesis, but my mistake was I already had money saved up, to buy her a ring and you just prepare for marriage. And God told me to give that money away, right? Now, we want a little bit more. I remember when I prayed to God whether this woman was mine or not, and God gave me the answer. The answer was, listen, develop first. I want you to be developed first before you even go to her.
Yeah.
This was around the season I was fasting, and I was reading the whole book of Job, and I'm looking at how Job was a man of integrity, a man of this, that, and the third, how he respected God. And, it was at that moment as I'm reading, God told me that, listen, I want you to be developed by me before you even get to that point of wanting to marry her. I said, all right, but I'm going to go and pursue her anyway. You know what I mean? Big mistake. Why? Because, a lot happened first of all, there's a reason why God tells you that, because there's a molding process. God wants you to learn certain things so that by the time it's that season for you to get married, things will run smoothly. And whatever. I disobeyed. Things were rough. I lost a lot of money. And it got to a point where our relationship, really, it felt like it hit rock bottom. And it wasn't even her fault. It was me. It was telling me, listen, I know things are rough right now. You're not, you don't have money like that. Or, our relationship is really rocky. But, I'm willing to work for this. Now, it was at that point, I was like, good. You don't want it. You don't want it. And I had past relationships. It was not anything that was, mature, and there was so many other things, that factored in that made me believe that this was not it. But that right there, I was like, yo, nah, yeah, I'm definitely marrying her, you know, and I'm gonna work towards it.
As guys, it sounds crazy, but we usually know. It usually doesn't take us too long to figure out, okay, yes or no. But even when you get that yes, but that yes sometimes is without consulting God. So you still want to make sure, like, okay, it's not just me looking at this person, but is this the person for me? Because at the end of the day, we're not getting married to just, you know what, let's try it, and if it doesn't work out, oh well. No, there's no if it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? So for me, like I said, you know, it's just about, it was really about just studying my wife and just seeing, okay, her character, how does she act with people? How does she treat the people around her? Because the way she treats the people around her, that's how she's gonna treat me.
Yep.
So observing those relationships, and some of them I observed up close, and some of them I observed at a distance. Like things that, you know, people that she didn't even necessarily knew that I knew. I'm like, hey, you know, people, I actually reached out to certain people. Like, hey, I see, you know, so-and-so. So, like, what do you think of her as a person? And it's like, when everybody's kind of saying the same thing about you, like the same, like, positive things, it's like, okay, like, I'm taking notes, and not only I'm praying, I'm seeing different things. And cherry on top was definitely God revealing it to us. Because we tell the story all the time, like, we didn't like each other, like, we didn't. Like, we tell the story all the time. She saw me, I saw, like, we didn't see each other on that level. But God kind of works like that, you know. It's the person that you least expected, you know, at the time that you least expected. That's when God really steps in. So
that leads me to my next question. So did you guys have any fears prior to getting married? Since that guys don't want to get married is because they don't want to commit, staying with one woman, yada yada. But did you guys have any fears before getting married?